Welcome to Learned in Go-Go, the podcast. I'm your host, Sydnee A., and I'm also the author of Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Go-Go, How a Preacher's Daughter Pole Danced Her Way to Finding Her True Self. And I am super fucking excited that it is episode 10 of Learned in Go-Go, the podcast already. I don't know how we got here already. I feel like I blinked and we're in the double digits. But that is super exciting. And also, if you have been keeping up, the last few episodes have been mini-sodes where it was just me, and then we had our interview with Mark from the Great Media Comic-Con. So I am also super excited to have my producer, Frankie, is going to help me co-host tonight. So how are you doing, Frankie? What is new in your world?
I love your energy because you're sounding good. You're sounding exactly how you should as the host of a podcast.
Well,
but
thank
today
you.
you get Frankie Schlub, which is kind of like whatever. But I will say,
are you cranky Frankie today?
I am cranky Frankie. So you guys are getting another version of Frankie today. Frankie's been swamped, sleep deprived. Is just a little tired. But I'll say this: you and I got to hang out yesterday for a little bit. It's been a little bit since we got to hang, and we were just talking about something that you kind of mentioned, which was the 10th episode. And when we were talking to Dave, by the way, he's real. Got to meet him last night.
He finally met my husband.
Finally met the husband. It was an awesome time. We were talking. It was just like it flew by. It absolutely flew by. And you're killing it. You're doing awesome.
Thank you.
I'm happy to be a part of it. Like I told you from the get-go, you're a natural. And this after the 10th episode, just look at it like we just went up another tier, because now there's going to be things that are going to be happening that we're going to be introducing that are just going to be absolutely outrageous and such a good time. Almost as outrageous as this printer going off behind me.
Right I was wondering what I was hearing. That's hilarious. But yeah, I feel like I'm getting more and more comfortable every episode and just sharing what I need to share without worrying about it, because everybody that's been listening to the podcast has been so wonderful. The feedback's amazing. If you're listening and you like it, please review, please rate. 5-star would be amazing. And if you could do that for me, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, what else they should do other than giving it 5-star ratings, reviews, and stuff like that. But in order to do that, make sure you go follow Sydnee A on her new podcast page. It's running. It's going good. Content's being built. The Learned in Go-Go podcast, the page at Learned in Go-Go. Make sure you give it a follow. Content's being dished on there. And once again, without the podcast started from the book. And you got to get yourself a copy of the book. So make sure you buy the book, Everything I Learned in Go-Go, at www.learnedingogo.com. It's where you can find the book. It's where you can find all the links. We'll have some things up there. Some new content, new things what we got going on, which we're going to probably plug next episode. But yeah, and a little shout out to you. Yeah, thanks for Mark coming on the show, talking.
That was an awesome interview, because it went on in all sorts of directions that we weren't expecting it to. And that's the other fun thing about the podcast is you can have an idea of what you want to talk about, and then it can make a complete left and be even better than what you thought you were going to talk about.
Especially the live shows. Especially the live shows. It was a show that, like you said, it went a couple different directions. But our goal was to, we wanted people to meet Mark, and they know him for the con, and what an incredible event it's going to be. We're going to be down there. We talked about last time. It's official. Sid and I will be down there, doing our own little thing. We're gonna have a flyer created, and we'll start really buzzing around that. But anybody that's going to the con, make sure you come see us. I got a text message from my good friend Jason Miller, who was one that checked in on the show when Mark was on. He's got his tickets. He's going to be there. Him and Chase are going to be there. But back to that show, yeah, it was everybody got to learn about Mark, his background. We obviously went into some mental health stuff, and his story was touching. Just people were moved by it. I mean, I was getting messages from my viewers saying how much it touched him, and we announced that on the show, and everybody kind of broke down, and we got to talk about the con. We had our doggy segment.
That was the best. I love the doggy segment.
Yeah, I was unfortunate because my dog was he's good now. He's actually a guest on the show today. He's hanging out with me. He is not eating my underwear right now, so I'm happy about that because I'm running out of pairs. Literally.
You need to get him more treats so he'll stop eating your underwear.
Treats. I don't know why he does it. It's like that's the clean stuff. He wants the underwear that like I just wore after a hockey game.
Yeah, he's a dog. They're weird like that. There he is. Hi, Major. He's in the window.
But buy the book, follow the social media. Yeah, should be a good one. But I'm doing all right. It's been a long one. Happy to be doing this here. But you've been doing some incredible mini sessions covering Women's Month, which I love. And we're gonna kind of get a little bit more into it today.
Absolutely. I just wanted to say real quick before we get into our National Women's Month, that the link that I'm going to put in the show notes, which is my link tree, will have the links to my book, which is Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Go-Go. And it also has all of the podcast links. So if you want to check it out on a different platform, it's all in there as well. And there's also a link to join my email subscription list, which will help keep you in the know of everything as well. And I promise I don't spam. Once a week is usually my top. I haven't sent an email in the past couple of weeks. I hate getting my email inbox, I gotta check that by people. So
I gotta subscribe to that. I should.
You better subscribe to that.
I know. I don't know why it's only, especially even just to see how it looks, just to take a look. I'm curious about them because obviously people know like I have my podcast and if you don't mind a little plug, if I may.
Plug away.
I have a special episode that I'm doing tonight. Obviously when people listen to this, it'll already be over. But make sure you check it out. Women's Month, it's important to me as well in the world of sports. So I have on the incredible players and some of the board members from the United Women's Hockey League. I'll be down there doing photos for their tournament on Saturday, but we also have them coming on my show tonight to talk about it, talk about the importance of women's hockey. It's going to be a good time. So that's going to be on the Chirpin' Pucks podcast. By the time this episode comes out, we'll probably already be done. But go back and listen to it. It's going to be really good. You get the good stuff with Sid, the sexy, promiscuous ladies that she talks about. And with me, you get the fucking chirpers, the hockey players, the old fucking babu.
Well, we can put the link to that in the show notes as well, so people can go back and see your show too, because it, to me, is very important because when Frankie told me about this league, I didn't even know it existed. So it's important that people's eyes are open to these things that women are doing that they're probably not getting enough support for just because we don't know that it exists. So definitely Frankie's story as well.
Thank you.
I can't wait to catch it.
Yeah, it's very true. Just to kind of comment on that real fast, just because it's just a good topic. Because with our topic of once again celebrating National Women's Month, hockey has always been dominated by it's been a male dominant sport. Just recently this year or mid last year, they started the National Women's Hockey League, so it's a professional league for women. No different than the NHL, besides the sex of the player. And watching some of these players, they're almost as feisty as the males. For so long, the NHL has overlooked any type of female hockey teams, and it's starting to transition to a little bit more equal. I remember watching, you'd only see the women play in the Olympics, and I'll tell you, the Team USA women's hockey was almost more competitive than males. So it's great to see it. I'm happy about it. I'm happy to talk about it tonight. Girl power. Well, Alanis Morissette. I love Alanis Morissette too.
Yeah, well, there's so many different things out there, and it's the ones that get the most advertisers and stuff that will always be on top. And I never, I'm smart enough to know that women's sports are never going to be as supported financially by brands and all as the men's sports. So we kind of have to look to make sure we're catching these things because they're not going to be on the major networks like the NHL is. Or
it's true. Yeah, I mean, and
So
like you said, it's it'd be silly. Like it's true, and it's unfortunate that that's the case, but it is true. Their platform is growing, it's starting. There's a lot of good people that are investing time, money, all that to get the women's national hockey league going, and you never know. Hopefully, there's a team that comes to Philadelphia because he'll be right there taking pictures. Good old
absolutely. And that's the thing,
Frankie
like
baby himself.
you having them on the show and us talking about it, all that's bringing awareness. And the more that they see that we're interested, the more they're going to push it and the more likely it is going to get popular and get the credit it deserves,
All starts as one plug after another. But we got some incredible ladies that we're going to be talking about tonight. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, if you want to go first to keep it in the sports vein of
Yeah.
your
Yes.
National Women's Month feature.
Yes, absolutely, for sure. Like I said, we kind of came up with this yesterday. And once again, praise to you on the mini series that you've been doing, and just being able to get in here and kind of just dish out that content. Obviously, as much part of the show as you want me to, but it's nice to see like you getting in here and doing those mini sessions. It shows like how important the month is to you, and I love that because you know I appreciate it, and the content's been great. I've been enjoying it, and I'm happy to be able to be a part of this with you.
Thank
So
you, because I love doing this with you too. Not to cut you off, but that's what some people need to understand too, is where people and sometimes our schedules don't mesh. So it's not that, as much as he likes to tease me about it, I was not mad at Frankie and booting him out of my show. Our schedules just didn't mesh, so I said I'll do a mini-sode.
Our schedules didn't match, aka show. No, we're all busy. And listen, she's learning and she's kicking ass, and there's gonna be a time where she's not gonna always need me to produce, and that means I get to do other things. But our first woman that we're gonna kind of talk about here, we went in a couple different categories when we were at the house yesterday, just going over content, and we decided let's pick a couple different women, focus on them in different kind of categories. So we're going to focus on one from the sports world today, and most people would have thought, what you would have go with, like, Billie Jean from like the tennis player,
Billie
or
Jean King. I thought of her exactly when you said that. Yeah,
yep. I bet you. Well, that's what we do. That's the podcast connection. Serena Venus Williams, another two. Danica Patrick.
Oh yeah.
Who else do we have? I mean, we could just keep running down the list.
Randy Chastain.
Deladon, another one, WNBA player. But we're going to focus in the world of a little bit of a badass. And this woman is, oh man, unbelievable. So tough last name, going to try and pronounce it, Rose Namajunas. So she is a UFC fighter. She was born June 29th, 1992, 31 years old, out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She was strawweight division, flyweight, fighting out of Denver, Colorado. Great team. She had the 303 training team back from 16 to 20. She's a black belt in Taekwondo, karate, brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Shout out to that. She's been years active since 2010. She with a mixed martial arts record of 17-11, 2 by knockout, 5 by submission, 4 by decision. She's Rose
badass.
Is an incredible fighter. I got to watch a couple of her fights. She's competed in the flyweight division. She's a former UFC women's strawweight champion. As of December 19th, 2023, she's ranked number 8 in women's pound for pound. She has had some incredible battles. So her parents moved from the United States in 91. They knew their Rose and out of her grandmother. So she's got a pretty interesting story because the war with USSR, she had lost some family members. And she regularly goes back home to Lithuania to kind of like give back to her area, which I think is absolutely incredible. Her father, actually, something that she does with a lot of charity work. I think there's a foundation, his name, who's up from schizophrenia. And when Rose was still young, he had left and actually died in Germany in 2008. So she's had like a really lot of obstacles that she had to overcome, and obviously, in being a woman entering a male sport, being a woman, there was only one woman that was at the top, and that was Ronda Rousey,
Right.
and she was like the face. So when other divisions started, people were having other opportunities. And Rose was one of those ones that really jumped in. Like, incredible family background. Her mother was a pianist, trained at Lithuanian Academy of Music and Theater. Another thing, her nickname is Thug Rose. That's what they call her, Thug Rose,
I
due to
love
the fact that she was the only white girl amongst the smallest, yet acted tougher than any of them. Little one that they mentioned here, Rose has mentioned being a victim of child sexual abuse while emphasizing that she does not want to speak about the specific details.
That's
I just
horrible.
like the obviously she's not going to talk about it too much. We won't talk about it too much, but once again, we're talking about obstacles, a lot of obstacles that she's already had to overcome as a woman for being a woman, essentially. Really heartbreaking to hear. It really is. She started training at 5, and
Oh my
she just
God.
became one of the fan favorites from training. Started with Taekwondo, karate, and then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is an incredible thing to learn. It's intense. I got to do it for a few years. Became a professional grappler. She got her big shot in 2013 when she entered The Ultimate Fighter. So The Ultimate Fighter, it was one of those. It was one of the TV shows where a bunch of people would go on. They would compete for essentially for a chance to get a contract.
Oh, okay.
So, yes. So Gilbert Melendez had picked Rose for his team, and she defeated Alex Chambers by submission due to a rear naked choke, which is a nasty.
I was going to say, what is that? I don't, a rear naked choke?
Yeah, rear naked choke. So it's essentially one of those where you kind of just get them here. So you're essentially put your fist on your side. There's a hole right here. You
like I'm a little teapot.
Yes, and you just clench down.
Okay.
You just clench down, and you're holding them, and you'll be out in minutes.
Interesting.
In the quarterfinals, she faced Joanne Calderwood, which she won via Kimura, which is an arm lock. It's an arm lock in grappling. It's either a single or double joint lock, but what it does is it hyperextends the arm and the elbow. So imagine like a figure four leg
so
lock
you're
with
going
legs. So imagine putting it back and then up. So obtaining an arm lock
like a chicken wing.
Effective use of full body leverage. So when you get that and you mount them, there's no way out of it. It's so an arm lock can cause, and I know this from training, muscle, tendon, ligament damage, dislocation, or a bone fracture if you put enough pressure on it.
Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Joke. So, and I know people can't see, but say you as the grappler, laying on your back, you get their arm, you put it between your legs, you cross, and you're pulling. You're essentially pulling out their socket on here. You're tearing the arm.
You're dislocating it from. So that's. I know Ronda Rousey always did the arm bar. So what's the how does because that I thought was hyperextension as well. Is that a different?
An arm lock it's just a matter of a twist in a different way. An arm bar is kind of just when you're laying on your back. They're very similar moves. It's just a different way that they're moving the arm and where they're holding it essentially. But both are very, very, very fierce.
I don't want either of those done to me. No, so I was just curious.
No. Yeah, she kept going. She ended up winning the next fight the same exact way. So now she's starting to become known as a submission artist. And the final fight of the tournament, she fought Carla Esparza on the 12th of 2014. And she won it. I'm sorry, champion of the crown. She lost about via rear naked choke in the third round. Despite losing in the finale, she was awarded 2-season 25,000 bonus awards for performance of the season, fight of the season, and she eventually got her in. So even though she didn't win the Ultimate Fighter, they were so impressed with the way she did, the way she carried herself, her story, that they gave her an opportunity and she ended up getting a contract. And
that's awesome.
She won some belts. Won some really good fights, but her toughest challenge yet. And I know we'll eventually have some USC fighters. I'm going to share this out, obviously, for the content because she is such a fan favorite. Her story, obviously people know about her shaving her head. She fought Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And Joanna was nobody, top of the line, the best of the best in the strawweight division. She came in, I think, as the biggest underdog against an undefeated champion. Biggest underdog. I'll have to find out what the odds are. And she upset. She won by a KO in the first round. She knocked out Joanna in the first round. I don't think it's her.
So Joanna was the champion. Just for the people that don't know, like I don't know that name. So okay, so she was undefeated before this.
She was undefeated. Just absolutely destroyed people. Okay. She absolutely destroyed people and KO'd in the first round. The win also earned Rose her second performance in the night bonus award. It was her first knockout victory in a professional career. She had 2 knockouts wins as an amateur. But something that really, when she won the crowd, they're already a fan of her, but when she really won the heart and soul, and I think of the UFC, and I'll never forget this, actually, was the post-fight press conference. Rose stated that she intended to use her champion status. Like, everybody thinks, Conor McGregor, for example, most people know who Conor McGregor is.
Oh, yeah.
Flashy, money talks. Like, that's how he was known. Rose dedicated her champion title to spread a lot of awareness for mental illness.
That's amazing. Oh, hi, Major.
Yeah, it's okay. Major's doing his thing. It was really important to her, and that's when people just really started to fall in love with her. She had another title defense. She had won, and then her second title defense, she had lost. She fought Jessica Andrade, who was her hometown was Brazil, and they fought in Brazil, which is always tough. She lost the fight by knockout via slam, so she essentially got picked up, slammed, and it knocked her out.
Damn.
Crazy. Yeah, it's a crazy way to go out. Like, you don't expect that. You essentially get swept up and pretty much just dropped right on the head. Which is crazy. She and the winning the strawweight champion again against a crazy fight against Zhang Weili. So most people remember that was in 2021, April 24th. Those two just battled, and Rose ended up winning that fight. Came champion, and then lost, moved to flyweight, new division, and she's scheduled. A little breaking news: she's scheduled to fight Amanda Ribas on March 30th, 2024. So Rose will be making her comeback. She hasn't fought since September 2nd, 2023, when she lost in a unanimous decision. She did lose, but she's scheduled to come back, and this will be a good chance for her to kind of come back. But Rose is a fighter. You got a little history of her. Look up some of her highlights for sure. I remember her crying a couple times. At every fight she won, she cried. She was so emotional.
I'm sure she was so full of adrenaline, it just came pumping out,
Oh yeah, it's a pretty intense being in there. One of the people watching you, but as a fighter, and like I said, I have never fought on that level, but just even training and sparring, and the couple of years that I was able to do some mixed martial arts, when you're in there in the sparring time, it's you always have the mindset you're in there prepared to die, you are going to war, and that's what these fighters do. And to see such a competitive women's division, I remember when Dana White would always get asked, "Are you going to open up a women's division? Are you going to open up a women's division?" And he would always say no, and it started to happen. And new divisions now, obviously, once again, the division with Holly Holm, Ronda Rousey, those were some big names. Ronda put it on the map.
Right.
Ronda put it on the map, and opened up doorways for a lot of these other divisions of women to come in, and Rose being one of them. And she wasn't the best. She was a good top rank. She was a champion in different divisions, but her character, her resilience, just the way that she was carried herself as a champion, says I think what she'll really be known for. She just giving back to the mental health community. Just like a lot of women in history, going back with Rosa Parks standing up for what's right. She did good with what she could.
Right.
Give it back. I think that's absolutely incredible. And it speaks volumes for a lot of women. And this is a sport. We were just talking about hockey. This is a sport right there, right there with hockey that like is so man powered that the women's division just gets overlooked. But fighters like Rose and like what they do and the competition, it helps so much. So shout out to her. She's an incredible fighter. So she's got a fight March 30th. Make sure you watch that. Have you ever watched UFC? You ever check out the UFC fights?
I have. That's how I knew some of the names we were talking about yesterday, because Dave will get the fights, sometimes like the big pay-per-view ones, and then we watch all of the fights leading up to it as well. So I have seen some of the women fighting, and it's like, man, they're amazing how they get into the different like grappling moves and stuff like that.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, there's some
Yep.
chicks. I'll tell you, there's some chicks there that are like there to fight. Like their faces are all just banged up. Like Cyborg. There's a chick. Her name's Cyborg.
That I had never seen Cyborg.
Oh man, you want to talk about a fighter like that just is busted up. As we're talking back and forth, I'll pull up a picture of her and I'll show you. She was one of those fighters that would just sit there and swing and take all the shots in the face like no other. And oh man, she was busted. Here she is. Yeah, she was. We'll pull her up right now. For those of you that will be listening to the show, sadly you won't be able to see, but search Cyborg on in Google and you'll be able to find her. She was a tough one. This chick was top of the line for a long time, so I'll show you her real fast. Here she comes. We'll put her up on the screen right now. There she is. That's Cyborg. Just
I think I know who that is.
gruesome.
Feels familiar.
Oh yeah, she was beast. She was beast. Once again, another woman to put it on the map.
And I dare somebody to tell her she fights like a girl. They get smooshed. She'd show them how a girl fights.
Well, the good thing is that she plays ball like a girl too, and we know how big that comeback was. I mean, that affected people. You play ball like a girl. That was from Sandlot, by the way.
Oh, gotcha.
Remember that? No, you remember?
What was that from?
Sandlot, you play ball like a girl.
Oh, yeah. You're killing me, Smalls. I haven't seen Sandlot in many, many, many years, but gotcha.
I have to watch Clerks still, by the way.
You do have to watch Clerks still. Shout out to Kevin Smith, who is super duper cool.
Yes.
I just have to do a quick little.
We should have dove into that in our intro. We got to talk about that. So shout out, Rose. We love you. Thank you for being the tough, badass bitch that you are, and doing it for all the women around you. Incredible fighter.
And for giving back to the mental health community and raising awareness for that too, because that, I think every year that goes by, we realize how important that is and how much it needs to be focused on more than it already is. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So shout out to her, and let's dive into a little bit what we were just talking about. I know we're a little bit all over the place, but we should have mentioned in our intro, but we didn't. But it was a perfect timing. And first of all, oh my God, so many different things. First time on the show that we're actually together, and you just had a birthday that passed.
I did. It was on Monday the 18th. Yes.
Monday the 18th. So live here on the show. Happy birthday once again to our wonderful host of the podcast. I wish you 10 more and more and more. Happy birthday. Thank you for me. Yesterday we celebrated your birthday. That was when we celebrated your birthday.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we'll take that. But tell us about what you did, because obviously you did a little something, and I know that you were pretty excited about this.
Oh my God, I was like stupid excited about it. So a friend of mine from high school turned 50 recently, and for his 50th, his wife got him this experience that was a private movie screening of the movie of his choice. And there were 15 of us in the theater. So he chose The Breakfast Club, and we all got to watch that in the theater, followed by a Q&A and meet and greet with Kevin Smith, who is my all-time favorite director. I love him so much. I love his movies. And it was just a dream come true to meet him. And he was every bit as awesome as I always thought he would be. So we met at Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash in Red Bank, New Jersey. It's a comic book store and so much more. So I treated myself to some Funko Pops for my birthday and some stickers and stuff. And then we went to see the movie, and I got to talk to him before and after, and he was just so sweet, signed everything that everybody brought and took the time to talk to everyone. And of course, I could not pass up the opportunity. I had signed a copy of my book and gave it to him. So
you did sign the book. You did sign a copy of the book.
Absolutely.
I thought
And
I
I
was
actually
one of those. I thought I was the only one that got it.
No, in fact, if you go to learninggogo.com and buy a personalized copy, I will sign yours, and you'll also get a super cool bookmark, of which I don't have sitting right here.
That's okay.
This is the old one.
Oh, yes.
And you also get a free compilation playlist, which is all the songs I mentioned in the book, all the songs I used to dance to, and some that I use now on my Thursday dance workouts. So you get
there were some good songs on there. Great tunes on there. Like those of you that follow the social media of Sid, she'll play her songs, and her affirmations, obviously. So make sure you're following her social medias, her Instagram, Facebook page, podcast page. Make sure you're following all that good content. The songs are great.
Thank you.
Those are the songs that I would probably pick. Like I think ASS might have popped up a couple. I think there's a couple good tunes on there.
It's all different kinds of songs. So I'm very schizophrenic with my music. Which one is
Ball with the Ball?
Oh, that's My name is Sid.
My name is Sid. We gotta get that in the intro. I think like maybe when we do like season 1 or season 2, we adjust the intro and we get that in there somehow. We gotta get that in there somehow.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah,
but all that to say, Saturday was amazing. And then after the movie, we went to the Quick Stop in Leonardo, which is the store that is in Clerks.
Clerks.
Yes.
Write that down. Where was Clerks filmed at?
The Quick Stop in Leonardo.
So it's actually local.
It's in Jersey, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Kevin Smith's from Jersey.
Were there any? And this is actually just like not being me being a smartass. I actually did not know that he was from Jersey. Were other movies that he did like from in Jersey too? Like
absolutely, Mallrats was in.
Mallrats was in Jersey.
Yeah, that's why the Dirt Mall was actually across from my older brother's apartment complex. I used to shop in there.
Oh, the Dirt Mall.
The Dirt Mall, yeah. So it's a movie theater now, but like it used to be the flea market.
Mallrats was my favorite. It's like that movie was so good.
It's amazing. I just watched it again Tuesday. I love that movie.
I know you were telling me. Every time I go to watch, you got to pay $3 for it. I don't feel like buying that.
No,
shit.
I have the DVD.
Oh, you have the DVD?
Yeah,
I'll look into that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Such a good movie. Yeah, I always wonder. You know me. We always talk about it. I always wonder if that kid is back on the escalator.
Oh yeah, the bloodbath on the escalator.
Yeah. That kid is back on the escalator. but glad you had a good time at Kevin Smith. The pictures looked awesome.
Oh, he was so sweet. Loved it. I just really hope he reads my book and likes it and talks about it.
You never know. I mean, you think
That'd be
about
amazing.
It. It's kind of ironic too. I'm saying this, but like you give him a copy of the book. Do you think he will just like sit there and he just like won't read it?
I don't think so, because he was asking me questions about it. So it wasn't just like thanks and put it down.
Yeah. Add it with the rest of them.
Right. So, I'm hoping. Hope springs eternal. So
I think he will.
Yep.
He seems he's big on the fans and stuff like that. And
totally, 100%.
And it's funny she's mentioned this. If you haven't seen the pictures yet, if you want to learn more about it, the only way to do that is to follow Sydnee A to stay up with her Learned in Go-Go podcast at Learned in Go-Go, the new official Facebook page where all the content for the podcast will be. Make sure you check that out. And of course, without the podcast wouldn't be here without the book. Make sure you get a copy of the book. Everything I Learned in Go-Go, visit www.learnedingogo.com. Get yourself a copy of the book. No, I did it wrong.
You say it wrong every time and it cracks me up. It's everything I need to know I learned in Go-Go.
I'm reading off of what I have here, my notes.
Well, read off of the book cover sitting right next to you.
Well, then I have to adjust my notes. Well, there you go. It shows me a little off the rails, but we knew that.
It's all good. We're having fun.
Just buy the damn book. All right, just buy it now.
Please
there we
and
go.
thank you.
Yeah, please and thank you. Just buy the damn book. And if you don't buy it now, come to Comic-Con and buy it there.
There you go.
Let's transition. Let's do a little transition here. We're going to transition to this is your turn. Well, I think we're both probably going to take this one because this one's going to be a little bit of a longer one. We're already 35 minutes in. We still have a great stripper cinema coming, which is for a great movie. This was one that kind of we were talking about. I kind of mentioned yesterday. And then learning more about her. I mean, this was a bad chick. Um,
Are you skipping the first one?
oh no, I wasn't going to skip her. I actually looking at her right now. She looks beautiful. I want to talk about it right now. Let's get into it.
Okay. Because I was going to say the one that you have up's the one that, there we go. Right? Is that where we're going?
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us about her. We're late to the floor on this one.
And then we'll do the next one. But this one I don't have as much content on, so this will be a quicker one.
Yeah, she's just doing her thing.
Right. So I wanted to talk about, I thought it was important because so many of the women that are recognized during Women's History Month are either Caucasian descent, white women. So I wanted to make sure that we highlighted some badass women that are not white as well. So that's why I picked mathematician. She was born Creola Catherine Johnson, but she goes by Catherine Johnson. So she was born August 26, 1918, in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. And she was the youngest of 4 children. Her mother was a teacher, and her father was a lumberman, farmer, and handyman. So you could tell he was doing everything to help his family, which, is awesome. So what she is known for is she's an African-American space scientist and mathematician. She's a leading figure in American space history and has made enormous contributions to America's aeronautics and space programs by her incorporation of computing tools. So this was really cool. They actually made a movie called Hidden Figures, and she was one of the people highlighted in that. So if her name and job sounds familiar, that's probably why. What her work included was calculating trajectories, launch windows, and emergency return paths for Project Mercury space flights, including those for astronauts Alan Shepard, whose name you probably recognize. He was the first American in space, and John Glenn, the first American in orbit.
I thought that was Neil Armstrong.
Not on the moon.
This was Lance Armstrong. That was Lance Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong, isn't he the bicyclist? Lance Armstrong's the Tour de France guy. Neil Armstrong was the first man on the moon. But this is in space and in orbit. It's all the details are there, right?
It's all about the details.
Yes. So she also helped with the rendezvous pass for the Apollo lunar module and command module on flights to the moon, which would have been Neil Armstrong's job. So her calculations were also essential to the beginning of the space shuttle program, and she worked on plans for a mission to Mars, which is pretty cool that they started coming up with ideas to go to Mars way back then, because when she started at NASA, it was the 1950s. So, which to me doesn't seem that long ago, but it's like, isn't it like 75 years ago almost?
Yeah,
crazy?
Anytime you say like 19, like what's the one date you think that like kids like? I always think like 1970s, like that wasn't that long ago. 50s is a little bit, because we have made a reference to something about our next one, which we'll get into the last time that happened,
right?
Which was in the 70s, which was pretty wild. But yeah, 1950 feels a little long ago, but
not as long ago as it was. It's like crazy, like to be actually coming up with plans to make a mission to Mars. When you're still trying to get to the moon and it's like that much further, but she was known as a human computer for her tremendous mathematical capability and ability to work with space trajectories with such little technology and recognition at the time. And the recognition part is the part that I wanted to concentrate on, because I have a quote from her that says, "We needed to be assertive as women in that day, assertive and aggressive. And the degree to which we had to be that way depended on where you were. I had to be. In the early days of NASA, women were not allowed to put their names on the reports. No woman in my division had had her name on a report. I was working with Ted Skipinski, and he wanted to leave and go to Houston. But Henry Pierston, our supervisor, he was not a fan of women, kept pushing him to finish the report we were working on. Finally, Ted told him, Catherine should finish the report. She's done most of the work anyway. So Ted left Pearson with no choice. I finished the report and my name went on it. And it was the first time a woman in our division had her name on something."
Wow.
So all of these women are working for NASA and the men are getting their names on their work. Isn't that bullshit?
Yeah. Absolutely, it's bullshit. Yeah, 100% it's bullshit. I mean, and if I was just so natural, it was actually probably almost just, even for the women, just like, we know what's the outcome's going to be. We know what's going to happen. We're going to do all the work and they're going to get all the credit for it. And it was normalized, which I find even more sad.
Right. And what's even more infuriating, well, it's, it's more infuriating, is
Yeah.
that her division was called the colored computers, and they separated the black workers and the white workers because in that time it was still the age of segregation in the South, and they had to use different bathrooms. And it's so, like, to me, it just infuriates me. Like, I get so angry thinking about that, like where that mindset comes from. I don't understand. So I'm like really excited that she got to get her name on her work because she absolutely deserved it.
Oh yeah, the credits is important. Like, I mean, everybody knows how I am with
Especially something like that. I mean, this is so complicated. Like, I would not be able to do this if you gave me 1,000 years to figure out these mathematical equations. I'm just not math minded at all.
I mean, 1,000 years is a long time, but realistically, yeah. Like, I just don't understand how. Could you imagine, like, this? We probably wouldn't even be able, like, talking about her if certain things didn't change. Like, who some male would have had all this credit for all these things when he, like, didn't even do it. And with
Exactly.
all, and just for the record, this isn't anything sexist or anything like that, but I believe in equal rights.
Mhm.
I'm one of 8. I have 7 sisters, and I've always wanted my girls to do better than me. Um, I love hearing about opportunities that women get. Like, it's still, even today, it still happens today.
Oh yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Absolutely. But the cool thing is that in her later years, she's spent her time encouraging students to enter the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the STEM, it's called, um, areas. And then in 2015, President Barack Obama awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom. In 2016, she was presented with the Silver Snoopy Award by NASA, which is like an astronaut. They
Snoopy,
call it Silver Snoopy, is what it's called. I think that's adorable.
I
Um,
love Snoopy.
Yep. She got a NASA Group Achievement Award, and she was portrayed by Taraji P. Henson as a lead character in the 2016 film Hidden Figures. In 2019, she was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal by the United States Congress. And in 2021, she was inducted posthumously into the National Women's Hall of Fame. So I found 23 awards listed for her in Wikipedia. She probably deserved 3 times that, but I'm like thrilled that she got that recognition with those 23 awards. And she passed away February 24th, 2020 at the age of 101.
Wow, 101.
Badass.
101,
Badass.
23 awards. And I want to mention one of those awards because I think it's important. It's just one of those little side note things that I think about when people think of those medals that people get, Presidential Medal of Freedom. They're always wondering, what does that represent? Like the Medal of
Right.
Honor. What's the highest one? Like, so I'm actually gonna tell our audience what the Presidential Medal of Freedom actually represents. Is the highest civilian award of the United States alongside the Congressional Gold Medal. So it's right there. It is awarded bestowed by decision of the President of the United States. The President of the United States at the time is the only one that can make this call. Okay,
Oh, wow. Okay.
they are the one that will give this award, and it recognizes people who have made an especially big contribution to the security or national interest of the United States, world peace, cultural, or other significant public or private endeavors. The award is not limited to U.S. citizens, and while it is a civilian award, it can also be awarded to military personnel, worn on uniform, et cetera, et cetera. But this is an honor. This is a big award. So, just want to just throw that out there. I just know that some people. I know
Don't
for
know
me
what it means. Like, I
personally,
know the name, but I wouldn't have known the criteria. So
no,
thank you for
no,
that.
thank you so much. Knowing the name, but knowing actually what it represents and how important it is, I just wanted our audience to understand that.
She absolutely deserved that. My goodness.
100%.
Absolutely. So let's move on to our next lovely lady, if you're ready. Because people might think why we're doing this woman when we did Anne Boleyn, my last mini-sode, but you can only, you can never get too many historical figures who have been decapitated.
Especially for what some of them have been, done and been through. And once again, this is the 10th episode of the Learn and Go-Go, the podcast. Make sure you follow Sydnee on the page, Learn and Go-Go podcast at Learn and Go-Go. And get the book, Everything I Need to Know, I Learned in Go-Go.
Thank you.
How a preacher's daughter pole danced her way to finding her true self from Sydnee. Buy the book, www.learninggogo.com. Get yourself a copy. And if you you always hear what she says. If you spend a little couple extra shekels, she'll sign it for you.
And you get free shipping in the United States if you get a personalized copy. So there's that too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Or I'll just bring it over. I'll come and I'll just personally bring it over.
There you go. Special delivery by Frankie. Awesome. So we're going to go back to France in the 1700s.
À la France.
À la France. Oui, oui. So Marie Antoinette was the last queen of France before the French Revolution. She remains a figure of intrigue and controversy centuries after her death. She was born Maria Antonia Josepha Johanna. Josepha? Is that how you would say that? I guess. Not Josepha.
No,
It was in Austria. I don't know. She was born in 1755. She was the Archduchess of Austria by birth and became the Dauphine of France at the age of 14 upon her marriage to the 15-year-old King Louis XVI. Now,
Louis XVI.
I don't know about you, but if I was 14 and married, I mean, it's better than when they had the 14-year-olds marry the 40-year-olds, but still, like, I was not mentally ready for marriage at 14, and I don't know many people who are. Could you imagine if they were like, hey, here's your wife. Nice to meet you. Let's get married. How's your mouth class?
Yeah, no, that would be yeah, I couldn't imagine that. Yeah, I couldn't imagine that. Times they are changing. It was very different. Very different.
That's true. Well, life expectancy wasn't that long either, so I guess that's why.
No.
So her parents were Empress Maria Theresa and Emperor Francis I. She grew up in
Francis.
Well, that's funny. We're going to talk about a different Francis in a minute too, which is pretty funny. It all ties together. So she grew up in the opulent surroundings of the Habsburg court and received a limited education that focused primarily on religious instruction and court etiquette. So you could tell what they were grooming her to be from a young age. In 1770, she was married off to the Dauphin of France, Louis Auguste, in a strategic alliance between the Habsburg and Bourbon dynasties. Bourbon, spelled like bourbon, so I'm going to say it that way.
Yeah.
The newlyweds both knew that Marie's primary duty as a wife was to produce a male heir. This goes up my ass every time I hear it, because science dictates that it's not up to the woman to determine the sex of the child physiologically. We can only produce girl babies. It's the dude's sperm that determines the sex of the child. So stop putting it on the woman to give you a boy baby. It drives me nuts every time I hear that. But the marriage went unconsummated for several years. When I read this, I kind of have a little theory about what was going on here, and it's a very obvious theory, but I'll continue this thought and let me see if you think the same thing. So they got married. They didn't consummate it for 4 years. So
Wait, they didn't have sex for 4 years after
they didn't have sex for 4 years after they were married, right? So due to either a physical issue on Louis's part or a psychological one, is what it says. It says royal courts were notoriously gossipy, none more than intrigue-filled Versailles, and Marie and Louis were harangued with advice and criticism about their supposed biological failure. Marie's brother was even dispatched to give the young king some step-by-step sexual advice.
Oh.
That must not have been completely embarrassing to have your brother-in-law give you the birds and the bees talk.
So the brother-in-law was given the birds and the bees talk
to the king. He was telling him how sex works. Yeah.
So he was telling the king. So
he was telling Marie Antoinette's husband, because they hadn't had sex in 4 years.
Oh wow!
You know, they didn't have sex after they got married for 4 years, and they say it was because the king had either a physical or psychological issue.
Well, the psychological thing, I get. I mean, I'll be straight. Like, there's been times where I would have that. I think he
liked boys, is what I think.
Really?
And rather than, because that would have been frowned upon.
Yes, especially at this era. And by the way, just real quick, when people think of like Marie Antoinette, there is a specific era. This was during the Reign of Terror era, so that's kind of like what we want to focus on. This was an era that was just wild, lot of death. The Reign of Terror essentially was through a time period that was ran by Diana Robespierre. And another thing about this, and which we're essentially going to lead to, was the guillotine, which was pretty much really big here.
We will definitely get there, because now she's still, like a teenager
Oh, right,
and
yeah,
they're trying
yeah.
to, So
This gets
apparently
so
when
exciting.
she originally came to France, she was struggling because she couldn't have a boy baby, like she wasn't having a baby, which was what she was supposedly there for. And she was taking a liking to all the fancy things and the beautiful things, and that made the people that were in her court very upset because she seemed to be focused more on frivolity than her courtly duties.
Mm.
So in 1778, 4 years after they had assumed the French throne, they had their first child, which was a daughter. Womp, womp, womp.
A daughter.
A daughter. But they did have their firstborn son in 1781, their second son in 1785, and a second daughter in 1786. So apparently Louis figured out how sex works. But unlike most royals of the day, he did not take a lover on the side, which again makes me think,
Well, that's good, right? That should be good, right?
well, it's good, but it's kind of like, maybe he just didn't like sex. But Marie did. She had a
Oh,
lover on
wow.
the side.
Oh,
So
shit.
some people believe that her one son was not her husband's, but her lover's, and he was a Swedish diplomat named Axel von Fersen. Axel.
Axel.
That's such a
Axel.
freaking badass name.
The name's Axel.
Yep. And the people that she was the queen too did not like her at all. So there was an infamous scandal that was associated with her that was called the Affair of the Diamond Necklace.
Oh.
Have you heard of this?
This is my favorite. This is my favorite area. I've heard of it.
Okay. See, I had not. I was unfamiliar with the scandal of the Affair of the Diamond Necklace.
Mm-hmm.
So a con artist named Jean de Lemont duped Cardinal
Great
de
French accent. Great French accent.
Thank you. It kind of comes and goes. He duped Cardinal de Rohan into purchasing an extravagant diamond necklace on behalf of the queen, supposedly to regain favor. The problem is Marie Antoinette had absolutely no idea this was happening. The guy was completely talking bullshit and got this diamond necklace out of the guy, but then she was blamed and they implicated her in this scandal, which is crap, but it further damaged her reputation with her people.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So then here in comes the French Revolution, which is what you were talking about with the Reign of Terrors and all that.
Well, it's all time.
Yeah, it's crazy. And she became the symbol of royal excess and tyranny in the eyes of the revolutionaries. So they had their sights set on her as being a bad person. Her extravagant lifestyle and perceived indifference to the plight of the French people fueled resentment against the monarchy. And in October 1789, the royal family was forcibly removed from Versailles and taken to Paris, marking the beginning of their downfall. So they kidnapped the monarchy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Especially back then, because their influence was more than people like the British royal family or hate the British royal family, but they're not running the country. The parliament is, it's like back then these people were running the country and you were like, nope. And you scooped them up and took them to Paris. So following the fall of the monarchy, Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI were arrested and imprisoned. They were tried by the National Convention on charges of treason and convicted in a highly publicized trial. I read, too, that they made the one son testify that he was sexually abused by his mother and his aunt, and those charges were brought up, too. And, they completely made it up. That's crazy.
Yeah, we look at it like that. Absolutely, that was probably just normal. I mean, you look at certain countries, even South Korea, they have the TVs where you're only allowed to watch what they put on. They're certain countries like that they control, and they take the leader and you take them all out. There's just so many. The rulers were just absolutely psychotic for tyrants. And look who's running the reign of terror over here. I mean, obviously two of the most psychotic people you could ever have running it. So they just did what they want. If they didn't like you, you were going to know you were going to go off with the head.
That's the thing with all the royalty too. You're the inbreeding in those royal bloodlines. No wonder everybody was nuts. There's a reason why you're supposed to spread the seed and not intermingle with your family members.
Yeah, I know that I've done that. Yeah,
but that's cuckoo. So but before we get to the big finale for Marie Antoinette, I did find something else out interesting because how she's just credited for saying, let them eat cake, Like that when you hear Marie Antoinette, that's like the big line that she said that she's known for. So I found out that "Let them eat cake" is the most famous quote attributed to Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France, during the French Revolution. As the story goes, it was the queen's response upon being told that her starving peasant subjects had no bread. Because cake is more expensive than bread, the anecdote has been cited as an example of Marie Antoinette's obliviousness to the conditions and daily lives of ordinary people. But did she actually ever utter those words? Probably not, they say. For one thing, the original French phrase that Marie Antoinette is supposed to have said, now I'm going to try and pronounce this. It's "Qu'il mangeant de la brioche."
Dude, nice. I was
Doesn't
a
exactly
little French accent here. Could be a possible character in the future.
I grew up watching Tom and Jerry with their little French mouse friends.
Pierre?
Yeah, the little one with the little beret. He was so cute.
Wasn't there the swords too? Like they would do the
Yeah,
swords.
En garde, c'est Monsieur Pussycat. Yeah, yep.
I love that.
Exactly. So, and I'm probably butchering this. I apologize, French people. But "Qu'ils mangent de la
all the
brioche."
French people we have watching the show, by the way.
You never know. Someday we might be big in France. It doesn't translate into "let them eat cake," but "let them eat brioche," which is a rich bread made with eggs and butter, which is almost as luxurious as cake. So if you're a peasant in... What's that?
No, you're good. Yeah, finish what you're saying. I'll come in.
Okay, so if you're a peasant in France, like brioche is as, like far away from you getting as cake would be. So it doesn't really change the fact that that's an asshole thing to say to starving people, but they're saying
the famous line now. That's what changes. Like the famous line of what? That the cake one. What's the famous line again?
"Let them eat cake," because they were complaining your people are starving. They have no bread. So she was like, "Well, then let them eat cake." She didn't understand that wasn't an option because she was so oblivious and high up in her castle,
Oh.
But the thing is, they're saying that even if that's what she said, it's not the mental picture that we in other areas of the world would picture. Like, here's your birthday cake. That's not what it meant. But
yeah, they weren't doing that. It was nothing like that. She was just saying, "Oh well, if they can't have this, well then we give them this."
Yeah, it's like you might as well have been saying, "Well, then they can eat caviar." The chances of them being able to get caviar are as realistic as cake when you're that.
Yeah, around the 1700s, a little caviar.
Yeah. I don't even want to imagine what they ate back then. I'm grateful to live in 2024.
You got good food and great
and bathrooms.
Yes,
and indoor plumbing.
I know how important the bathroom thing is to you.
It's very important. Yes. So, all of that happened, trial, conviction, and then death. Yep. But not just any death. It was
the guillotine. It was
off with her head.
Off with her head. Well, yeah, it was the guillotine too. She was guillotined at 12:15 p.m. on October 16, 1793. Her last words are recorded. I'm gonna give it a try here.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Pardonnez-moi, monsieur. Y'allez las portes express, which of course means, "Pardon me, sir. I did not do it on purpose." After accidentally stepping on her executioner's shoe. So she was essentially apologizing, knowing she was going to die, and stepped on a shoe and apologized.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. Her body was thrown into an unmarked grave in Madeleine Cemetery, located close by in Rue d'Anjou. Because its capacity was exhausted, the cemetery was closed by the following year. So her execution... Now the foreign response behind her execution is essentially now why I think that Marie Antoinette was so popular. Obviously because the era, who she was, and obviously the way she went out. But Marie Antoinette became a symbol abroad and a controversial figure of the French Revolution. Some used her as a scapegoat to blame for the events of the revolution. Thomas Jefferson claimed that her inordinate gambling and dissensions with those of the Count and others of her clique had been sensible item in the exhaustion of the treasury. So
they're saying she blasted through the money that the French government had. Is that?
Yeah, others were shocked by her fate and viewed it as evidence of the dangers of revolution. So they, the normalization of treatment of women.
Yep.
Essentially, they were starting to now see, especially after this and who it was and what was going on, that like the revolution of what apparently everybody thought was great, and the revolution, they were seeing dangers.
Yep.
Um, which was written during Marie Antoinette's imprisonment in Paris. She had, prior to her execution, she had started to talk about the dangers of it. And yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite errors. I'm a big history guy. Like, but yeah, the revolution was just, once again, ever, they just made it feel like it was normal. Everything was great.
Yep.
And once something like this happened, they started to notice it was wrong. And you can look, once again, when focusing on like Women's Month, like the normalization of males, male sports overrunning female sports. Well, those things are starting to change now. It's sad because thinking about something like this, something so tragic and a part of history, but it took that to realize, hey, maybe we were wrong, or
Yep.
hey, something's not right here. Obviously those things have kind of changed, but it always seems to be in
Have
certain
they
cases.
though?
So, I mean, yeah, there's definitely change. I mean, yeah, listen, we're not. Yeah, I would say that things have changed one way or another, in a positive way. I mean, look, it took how long for us to get the National Women's Hockey League? Like, finally, we got something like that.
Oh yeah, in
I
that
think,
sense, absolutely. But I
yeah,
think
that's
that
what
so
changed it.
many people still need a tragedy to make a change. Like
Oh,
how many
100%.
people, even in a personal way, like
Yeah,
don't change their diet until the doctor's like, dude, you got to do it or you're dead. Like just it's the human way is like it takes something that's
no,
completely shocking and tragic to make us change. Was my point. Not
yeah,
saying it's not changing.
that's always the unfortunate thing. But yeah, to kind of like very very interesting character, a big part of that whole era, and yeah,
And that's
couple
the
of
thing about that era too. Like the guillotine, you picture Marie Antoinette, you
oh.
picture Anne Boleyn. I told you yesterday, the last execution by guillotine. Do you remember what year?
I do
Sorry, I
after I
didn't mean to
drink some
get
my
you
drink.
mid 2 liter there. I'm sorry, that
Literally,
was my fault.
I thought we were good at that. I always like looked out for you on that one.
I should have been a waitress. Like, how's the food?
Yeah,
Well, you got a mouthful of food. I'm
yeah, I
sorry,
believe
that was my fault.
it was 1971,
1977.
1977.
So
So look back on that, 1977,
I was 2 years old. Star Wars was released, the
and they were still
original.
cutting people's heads off.
And that's when the last person had a public, I don't know if it was public, but it was definitely an execution by guillotine in France.
I'll have
It
to
was in
look that up.
1977.
As you transition, I'll actually look up like when and where, like a little bit about like the last execution.
Cool.
This was the last guillotine, right?
Yeah, the last execution by a guillotine in France. Yep. I don't know that any other countries ever used it though. Honestly, I think that might have been a French thing, like just exclusively. But
the last
cool.
guillotine in France was September 10th, 97. So in 28, execution was So and then the method was abolished in 1981. So it still took 10 years. Now it was done; they didn't do it anymore, but still 10 years. I wonder what that process was kind of like.
Yeah. It's
Now
the introduction of cable TV. People had something other to do than watch people's heads get chopped off. Maybe.
Are you not entertained? Yeah, but
yeah.
While
are
crazy,
you not entertained? That's crazy.
I know, but yeah.
Well, we better get into stripper cinema.
I know.
We're like just having a good old time today.
It's the 10th episode. It's the 10th episode.
Exactly. So for today's stripper cinema, brought to you by Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Go-Go. I picked Deadpool because I fucking love this movie. Okay. So there's just one strip club scene in it, but it's integral to this story. If you haven't seen Deadpool, it's it's technically a Marvel movie. It's but it's not one that you would show to your children. Do not show this to your children. So have you seen Deadpool? No? Okay. So the premise is
no, I said I did.
Okay, I thought so, but I was trying to remember.
We have a delay. There might be a little delay.
Okay, yeah, you froze up there for a second, so that was my fault. Wade Wilson, who is a former. Well, did you want to do like the producer, director, all that? Because I didn't write that down. If you have it up,
no,
if not,
it's
we can
okay.
come
We
back
can
to it.
get that. We'll make sure that we put that in our notes. We'll put that in our notes now. I wasn't prepared. Remember, I said I was a little day.
Yeah, it's all good. So Wade Wilson was a former special forces op turned mercenary, and he meets Vanessa, who's a hooker with a heart of gold. So he asks her what he can get for $275 and a frozen yogurt gift card. And she tells him that he can have 48 minutes of whatever he wants and a low calorie dessert. So 44 minutes of skee ball and 4 minutes of vagina later, it's true love. They wind up dating for a year, then they get engaged, and then Wade is diagnosed with terminal cancer. So he doesn't want to hurt Vanessa with him having to deal with him being in treatment and all, because of course she loves him. She's doing everything she possibly can to try and cure him, or at least help him not to be in so much pain. So to save her from that ultimate agony, he breaks up with her to try and like not have to put her through all of that. So he's desperately trying, you know, because he doesn't want her to see him suffering. So now he's desperate, and he agrees to take part in an underground operation where he's told they turn terminally, it's tough to say, terminally ill people into superheroes. It's run by a man who calls himself Ajax. And he treats Wade like crap because he can't handle Wade's wisecracking attitude. Yes, Ajax. Wade finds out that his real name is Francis, so he just taunts Ajax relentlessly about getting his name off of the dish soap because his real name is Francis. That's why I was saying we're going to get back to Francis a little bit later. So because he's, teasing him about being Francis, and Francis is an asshole, he keeps Wade in the one machine to mutate his body like all weekend. So he completely overcooks Wade in this machine that takes the oxygen out so you can't breathe. Like, it's terrible. This machine is horrible. So Wade finds a way to get out of it through a fiery explosion. But he's like, because of being in this machine for the weekend, he's immortal and he heals extremely fast, but he's grossly disfigured now. So he and Wade and Francis are like fighting, super big explosions, fire, and this is where you get to see Ryan Reynolds' peen. I'm so happy because there's so many times in movies, like, and believe me, I enjoy a naked woman scene, but you don't get to see full frontal male that often. So kudos to Ryan Reynolds for being like,
no, not full frontal.
Nope.
Not full frontal, yeah.
I was like happily surprised. So to quote the character, who I think his name's Weasel, he's the bartender, when he sees Wade, he says that Wade now looks, quote, like an avocado who had sex with an older, more disgusting avocado. Not gently, like it was hate fucking. There was something wrong with the relationship, and that was the only catharsis that they could find without violence. So that's how he's explaining what Wade looks like now. So, and it's not that far off. Convinced he will never be able to get Vanessa back without Francis healing his face, he becomes Deadpool and goes on a bloody rampage trying to hunt Francis down to force him to help. And the movie kind of goes like back and forth on time frames. Like it starts with like the fight scene, and then you get a little bit of back history, and then there's more fighting and all that. But because Deadpool can't die, he's getting all shot and like limbs are cut off and then they grow back. So he has like a little baby hand for a while as it's growing back. Like lots of good visuals in this. So Francis figures that out and he kidnaps Vanessa from the strip club where she's working as a cocktail waitress, which if you read my book, there's a funny anecdote about cocktail waitresses and strip clubs in there. So check it out. Yes. So Deadpool, with the help of two of the X-Men, Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, go after Francis and his cohorts to get Vanessa back. Francis tells him that he can't be fixed. He's like, what, are you stupid? You thought that this would be fixed? And Deadpool goes, no, but you're stupid because you told me that I'm wrong for keeping you alive. That's the only reason why I hadn't killed you, was because I needed you to fix me. Bang! Bye, Francis.
Ooh.
So I like to say this movie's like a naughty Ferris Bueller. It has that vibe of like breaking the fourth wall, like the talking to the audience and all that. It's very Ferris Bueller
Yeah,
energy.
yeah. With that, that comparison, yeah, exactly. I love how he kind of interacted with like the audience and he would say things and stuff like that. So that's probably I'll give you that one because I was never a big Ferris Bueller guy. A couple scenes I liked from it, but that does make sense.
Well, I grew
Yeah.
up with Ferris Bueller, so it's different
No,
energy. And that
I
was,
hear you. I hear you.
I believe that I may be wrong. I may be completely making this up, but I believe that Ferris Bueller was the first movie to have an after credit scene. Do you know if that's true?
I'll look that up for us right now.
Okay. Because, like, when he comes out in the robe and he's just like, why are you still here? The movie's over. And Deadpool does it in the robe too at the end. Like, he even does the Ferris Bueller after scene. So that was pretty cool. And like I've seen this movie, I don't know how many times, and the music's great. Like it's really funny if you're not offended by raunchy comedy, because there's like a lot of raunchy comedy in it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to see if Google had our answer about Ferris Bueller.
Would be actually the earliest one is The Great Muppet Caper in 1981. Yeah.
No way! I love the Great Muppet Caper. I've heard
The Muppets.
I don't even. I have to go back and watch that.
That was the movie.
Muppets are the bomb.
Yeah, there's
cool. So that's why I was like, I may be wrong,
so
and I was.
That one. What?
Oh, you're breaking up. I'm sorry.
That's a fun fact about this movie, and I know it's so bad. I can say it. It's going to be great. Like everything is just absolutely frozen right now. The page isn't responding. That's great. We're still freezing. Yeah, that's all right. Well, it's all good. This is.
Whoops. Frankie will be right back. Are you coming back?
Yes, of course I'm coming back. I thought you were just going to keep going. Yeah, this is a good show. So I'm all for it.
Okay, no, I just figured I'd edit this out. So.
Oh, you're good. And then I'm going to jump in 5. Another great fun fact about this movie, actually my favorite fun fact, is that Ryan Reynolds is a huge Dave Matthews fan. He actually has a fire dancer tattooed on his leg.
I did not know that. I have another fun Ryan Reynolds Deadpool fact. He got in trouble because he took the suit home and he refuses to give it back.
That's actually pretty awesome.
He was like, no, it's my suit now. Thank you. Which, you know what? It is his suit. Awesome. He's fucking Deadpool. They can't ever have anyone other than Ryan Reynolds play Deadpool because he's amazing.
No way. But yeah, they can never do it. Yeah.
And of course, I was telling Frankie earlier that my favorite part of Deadpool, because I have a personal connection to it. We went and saw it in the theater when it first came out, and Dave and I fell in love with this movie. So there's a scene where it's Deadpool and Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead get out of the cab and they're going to go kick Francis's ass. So Dave and I, like the way that they are walking in the theater, we're like, when we get married, that's what we're going to walk into the wedding reception to. This is going to be our wedding reception song. So just picture this, because I'm sure we've all been at a wedding reception. And usually it's, y'all ready for this? Like they'll play like something like that. So instead, Dave and I, when the DJ was like, and now for the first time in public, please welcome Mr. and Mrs. Sydnee, everyone heard.
X gon' give it to you. Wait for you to get it on your own. X gon' deliver to you. Knock, knock, open up the door, it's real. With the non-stop pop out and stainless steel.
So that was hilarious. And I just I love this movie and I love that part. So I was glad that we could incorporate that into our wedding day.
Love that song. Yeah, I can see that too. Me after hanging out with this yesterday, I could definitely see that. But yeah, that was a good one. A couple of great great stripper cinema. 3 great women that we got to choose from. And officially our 10th episode is our longest one. an hour and 15
Absolutely.
minutes. Let's
Yep.
let's hit the wrap up and and keep on cruising. So here we go, wrapping it up. Let's wrap up the show. What do we got?
Awesome. So yeah, so we're gonna have to come up with this week's assignment, which nobody answered last week. I'm a little disappointed there, kids. So you can always go back on my social and see last week's, because every time you answer the assignment, you are able to get an entry into the monthly book giveaway. So you can go back and answer last week's for your one entry for last week as well. So this week, we only have one more episode in National Women's History Month. So I want you to comment and let us know someone that you would like us to cover for
Absolutely.
National Women's History Month. But please make it someone that doesn't get the kudos every year. Like if it's, every year in schools, people learn about Florence Nightingale and Molly Pitcher and, like the women that are more popular, quote unquote, to be taught in school. Like let's do some unsung heroes and see what we can find out about them. It doesn't have to be someone who got their head chopped off. We already did 2 of those. So,
Yeah.
Gals and guillotines, we've kind of covered. But
Yeah, that's a good topic, gals and guillotines. But yeah, we'll look at them, we'll pick some, we'll select them, and we'll be covering it for the last week. And as I kind of start to transition with my final duty, make sure you follow Sydnee on our social media platform, Learn and Go the podcast at Learn and Go. You'll be able to stay up to date with all the great content, the assignment, all those types of good things. And once again, the show wouldn't be here today without the wonderful book, Everything I Need to Know at Learn and Go the book. Make sure you get yourself a copy at www.learnandgogo.com. Gotta get that book. It helps you learn the podcast, you understand the book, you get yourself an autographed copy. You're your official fan. But thank you for having me be part of this 10th show. Thank you so much.
yes, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I loved having us both going back and forth with the different topics, and I loved your excitement about the sports and like being able to explain the different moves and all for those of us who might not be familiar with what they were. So thank you for that. That was pretty cool.
That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Cool. Well, I guess we will see you next week. And until then, remember to take everything in life head on, because when you do the ostrich syndrome and stick your head in the sand, you think you're hiding from your problems, but the rest of the world just sees a big ass. Have a great one. Love ya.
Love you.